So the topic of this question, as Tom gave us, was the evolution of ethics. And I want to go back into the distant mists of time to say this was journalism then. This was the voice of God talking to you. And you can imagine that TV voice and those radio voices. They were very authoritative. People trusted everything they said. But it was also very paternalistic. It was very closed. It was a complete one-way conversation at the listener, the reader, the viewer. People had no idea really what were the standards behind things. And if something went wrong with what Mr. Cronkite said, maybe the audience would know that there was not this discussion about media rights and ethics that goes on today. So that was then. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way here. So now you've seen a much better demonstration than I can give now from the earlier session about drones and bots and Google Glass and all the things that are going on, which, I mean, you cannot imagine a more different culture in terms of what's happening with journalism than what's happening today and what's going to be happening in the next few years. So now things are open, things are very transparent with the readers. They know what you're doing, they know what they want. The reporting comes as much from the citizen journalists as they do from the other journalists, and we storify and we make stories out of them. Just one example, last week in Toronto there was a shooting in a courthouse, and a man tried to get in, was shot by the police and killed, and the police officer was fairly seriously wounded by a weapon that he had. And what happened there was we were not allowed in. Journalists are not allowed in. It's on lockdown. So we and everyone else in the city reported using live video from someone who was there, tweets, phone conversations in. So that, what that does is that requires a different way of looking at ethics and standards. It's certainly more democratic, which is great. It's more fun, it's more relaxed, it's less corporate, less talking at people and more talking with the reader and trying to understand what they want. And you really need to now make it a two-way street and nurture the engagement with those readers. There we go. Okay, so technology, again, has been explained far better than I could. But one of the things you need to think about, in my world at least, is as a journalist, you still need to verify. You still need to make sure that this is right, because if it's wrong and you're curating, it's your reputation. It's your reputation personally if things go wrong. It's your organization's reputation if things go wrong. So again, you need to be right before you're first. You need to be open about your standards. The self-cleaning oven theory is a good one, which is you put things out there and your readers will help you correct. And I get that all the time. I get a lot of readers writing and saying this is wrong and that is wrong, and we have a very smart audience. But that's not the full story. It's very important if you recognize a mistake to fix it right away, because you can't count on readers going back and reading subsequent things online to make sure it's right. So that's not an excuse to be cavalier about the facts. You have to do the best you can with the facts. Now that said, we all make mistakes. There are errors made every day, and you have to be open about it and very upfront about what went wrong and what you're going to do about it. So you all remember this, and you know how quickly your reputation can be destroyed by something. Now, she's not a journalist, but unbelievably stupid. And we've seen others, lots of other Twitter examples. Here's one I wanted to go into a little bit. And so the Globe and Mail is a traditional newspaper. It's been around for, 140 years. Canada's national newspaper, does business, does politics very well. And we had a story online that basically said, "Local man in coma, in a butter coma," was the headline on it. Now, just all of you here are very smart journalists. Just think for a minute. You read something that says butter coma, 413 butter biscuits, and if that isn't enough of a clue that this is a hoax, it says what you probably can't read there, Arkansas's second most unreliable news source, right on the website. So that's a very bad mistake to make, and it was done on something called the Hot Button blog. Readers are all over us. We also had various companies who write about media ethics and hoaxes say Globe and Mail suckered by this. So what do you do about it? So for me, there we go. Oh no. Lesson number 1 is be transparent about it. Oh yeah, no, it's not. Thank you. Be transparent about your mistake. Tell the readers right away, oh, we were hoaxed too. Say that. Leave it up. Don't take the site down. Don't take the story down. There were 2 or 3 other mainstream media caught in the same hoax. Most of them just took it out and had an error link. We keep it up. We say right in the top, we were hoaxed on this. I wrote a blog explaining what went wrong and what was learned from it. So you can't fool the readers and you can't hide your mistakes. So one of the questions that Tom had was cultures merging, and there's no question that that is happening, that all of the legacy media, the organizations that have been around for a while are learning, are adapting, are writing a lot more about, as they drive the clicks on it. And, you know, 2 of the biggest stories for us in terms of online are our 2 Canadian bad boys, and we know who they are, Justin Bieber and Rob Ford. Now, these things are out there. These are kind of pack coverage, a lot of them, not some of the exclusives. So you got 2 things going on there. There's been a lot of exclusive coverage about the Ford family, some done by the Globe, some the Toronto Star, and some done by Gawker under John Cook. But you have to think more about those core stories in your brand, that everything is situational, that if you make a mistake about a Justin Bieber story, people don't really care so much. Our audience wouldn't really care so much. But if you had a major error or an ethical slip on something about Canadian politics or business, the readers would be very upset because they have a trust with you on these stories. They know what you stand for, and you really have to honor that trust. So Canadian standards are a bit different than the U.S. Part of it is probably our spread out country. Unlike Britain, it was based on home deliveries as opposed to newsstand sales. So it is more about that relationship with the reader rather than the big flashy headline. Libel laws, we have no out about public figures. In fact, our libel laws are stricter about what we say about public figures. That makes a difference. Canada also has a very international way of looking at the world because we're a small country and because we are a nation of immigrants. So we tend to write about the world. And of course, as with everywhere, you get more and more opinion stories and advocacy. So just to wrap up, I think the basic standards don't change, which is fairness, balance, and transparency. So being upfront with the readers, including them, also not giving up on the basic core of journalism, which is to challenge authority, to do reality checks, to write critically and tell people about what's going on, because that is our number 1 mission. And a couple of things that I see kind of looming in the future in terms of ethical issues are, especially happening in Europe and the UK, is a growing movement about the right to privacy, the right to disappear from stories. We have a policy of don't unpublish, but that kind of thing is probably going to be under some pressure in the future. So that's it. Thank you.